I died on a Tuesday, clutching an empty pill bottle that should have been full. The last thing I saw before my vision went dark was my sister Jennifer's Instagram story. Her, glowing and healthy at some wellness retreat in Sedona. The same sister who'd sworn she'd pick up my refill. The same sister who had access to my insurance card for emergencies. The same sister who I'd trusted with everything. Then I woke up 6 months earlier, gasping in my childhood bedroom, 29 years old again, with the worst migraine of both my lives. I knew immediately what had happened. You don't forget dying. You don't forget the specific texture of your bathroom floor tiles against your cheek, or the way your fingers wouldn't quite close around your phone to call 911, or the copper taste of failure in your mouth. Rebirth, regression, second chance, whatever you wanted to call it, I had it, and I knew exactly what I was going to do with it. See, my first life had been a slow motion disaster, and Jennifer had been the architect of most of it. But I'd been too naive, too trusting, too convinced that family meant something to see it happening until it was far, far too late. Let me paint you a picture of my sister. Jennifer was 2 years older, 3 inches taller, and had spent our entire lives being the golden child. She had my mother's sharp cheekbones and my father's easy charm, while I got my grandmother's round face and anxious disposition. She glided through life collecting opportunities and admirers like some people collect stamps. She'd married well, twice. Her second husband, Derek, was a commercial real estate developer who worshipped the ground she walked on and never questioned why she needed so much self-care. I, on the other hand, had married poorly once, divorced expensively, and spent my late 20s rebuilding my life from scratch while managing a chronic illness that made everything 10 times harder. That illness, lupus with a side of fibromyalgia for fun, required expensive medications, multiple prescriptions, some of them serious controlled substances, all carefully balanced to keep me functional. My insurance, a grandfathered plan from my old job, was the only thing that made the medications affordable. Without it, I was looking at thousands of dollars a month. In my first life, I'd trusted Jennifer with my insurance information when I had a surgery and needed someone to handle pharmacy runs. She was my emergency contact, my person. The sister who'd held my hair back when we were kids, who'd helped me move 3 times, who I'd thought would do anything for me. I was so fucking stupid. What I didn't know, what I didn't learn until I was literally dying, was that Jennifer had been using my insurance to fill her own prescriptions, not for illness, for enhancement, for her endless quest to be perfect. She'd been stealing my Adderall, claiming she needed focus for her consulting business. She'd been taking my anti-anxiety meds for her stress. She'd been helping herself to my pain medication for her migraine attacks. And because she had my insurance card, because she knew my information, because pharmacies in our city didn't always check IDs carefully, she'd gotten away with it for months. The prescriptions I desperately needed kept coming up short. I'd blame my brain fog, count wrong, assume I'd taken more than I remembered. My doctor started looking at me with suspicion, like I was drug-seeking. The pharmacy flagged me once, warning me about early refills I'd never requested. I'd been confused, defensive, ashamed, and Jennifer had been there through all of it, sympathetic and supportive, helping me fight with insurance companies, going to the pharmacy for me when I was too sick to go myself, using every opportunity to steal more. In my first life, it had ended when I'd run out of my immunosuppressant during a flare. I'd asked Jennifer to pick up the refill. She was going to be in that part of town anyway. She'd said yes, of course, anything for you, sis. She'd picked it up, and she'd kept it. I didn't know why. Maybe she wanted to try it, see if it would help with some imagined issue. Maybe she'd read somewhere that immunosuppressants could be used off-label for something cosmetic. Maybe she was just so addicted to stealing my life that she couldn't stop. It didn't matter. What mattered was that I'd gone into organ failure without that medication, and by the time I'd realized what was happening, it was too late. I'd died alone on my bathroom floor while my sister posted about her chakra alignment. But that was the first life. This life, I had knowledge. I had anger. And I had 6 months to plan the most satisfying revenge imaginable. The first thing I did was secure my medications. I changed all my passwords, got a new insurance card with a different ID number, and set up alerts on my pharmacy account for any activity. I smiled at Jennifer when she asked if I still had her listed as my emergency contact, and I lied smoothly. Of course, I said. You're the only person I trust. Her relief was visible. Good, let her think she still had access. The second thing I did was research. In my first life, I'd been ignorant about insurance fraud, about pharmacy flagging systems, about what happened when someone got caught using someone else's prescription benefits. Now I became an expert. I learned that insurance companies took fraud seriously, very seriously, especially when it involved controlled substances. I learned about pharmacy databases that tracked prescriptions across providers. I learned about the algorithms that flagged suspicious patterns, same patient, different pharmacies, overlapping prescriptions, early refills. I learned that if someone got caught committing prescription fraud, they didn't just lose their insurance, they could face criminal charges, felonies, prison time. And I learned that if someone's insurance policy was used for fraud, sometimes the entire policy got canceled. Everyone on it, every dependent, Jennifer's perfect life was built on Derek's insurance. Derek's expensive, comprehensive, covers everything insurance through his company. And because Jennifer didn't work, why would she when she had a rich husband who loved her? She was completely dependent on that coverage. More importantly, so were her kids. Jennifer had 2 children from her first marriage, Sophia, age 7, and Marcus, age 5. Sweet kids who I genuinely loved, despite their mother. Marcus had childhood asthma. Sophia had type 1 diabetes. Both conditions were manageable with proper medication and care. Both were catastrophically expensive without insurance. In my first life, I died never knowing what Jennifer had done. I died thinking I'd failed somehow, that my body had betrayed me, that I'd been careless with my medication. In this life, Jennifer was going to know exactly what she'd lost and exactly who'd taken it from her. But I had to be smart, I had to be patient, and I had to make absolutely sure that when the trap snapped shut, she couldn't escape. I spent the first month of my second life playing the perfect victim. I was the same struggling, sick little sister Jennifer expected. I called her crying about my health. I asked for her help with pharmacy runs. I gave her every opportunity to feel superior, to feel needed, to feel like she had power over me. And I documented everything. Every time she offered to pick up a prescription, I said yes, but I also filed the prescriptions through a different pharmacy across town that she didn't know about. When she brought me bottles that were all they had in stock, I photographed them, noted the pill counts, and compared them to what should have been there. She was stealing exactly what she'd stolen in my first life: the Adderall, the Klonopin, the pain meds. She was so confident, so sure I'd never notice or never care. After all, I was brain fogged and sick. What was I going to do? I also started building my backup plan. I researched insurance options. I found a plan through a freelance organization that would cover my medications, barely and expensively, but enough to keep me alive. I squirreled away money from my remote job. I prepared to lose everything to make sure Jennifer lost more, because that was the key to making this work. I had to be willing to sacrifice my own insurance coverage. I had to be willing to let the fraud investigation take us both down. But unlike Jennifer, I had nothing left to lose and everything to gain. Month 2, I started setting the stage. I scheduled an appointment with my doctor and expressed concerns about my medications running out faster than they should. I was careful about it, worried, not accusatory. Just a confused patient who couldn't understand why the numbers weren't adding up. My doctor ordered a comprehensive review of my prescription history. That was when things got interesting. The pharmacy database showed multiple fills of my prescriptions at different locations. Some I'd picked up, some Jennifer had picked up for me. But there were also fills at pharmacies I'd never been to, in parts of town I'd never visited, on days when I had provable alibis, social media posts, work timestamps, credit card receipts showing I was nowhere near those locations. Someone had been filling my prescriptions all over the city. This is concerning, my doctor said, frowning at her screen. These are controlled substances. The insurance company is going to want to investigate this. Investigate? I made my voice small, frightened. Am I in trouble? Not if you didn't fill these prescriptions, but someone did using your information. This is fraud. I let my eyes widen. Oh my God, could someone have stolen my identity? That's what we need to find out. She was already typing. I'm going to report this to your insurance company and to the state pharmacy board. They'll launch an investigation. In the meantime, I'm going to change all your prescription numbers and set up additional security on your account. Perfect. I left that appointment with my heart racing. The trap was set. Now I just needed Jennifer to walk into it. I didn't have to wait long. In my first life, Jennifer's theft had escalated around this time. She'd been particularly stressed. Some drama with Derek's business, some falling out with her wealthy friends, some crisis that made her need more pills to cope. This life was running parallel to the first. Like clockwork, she called me 3 days after my doctor's appointment. Hey, sweetie, she said, using that particular tone that meant she wanted something. How are you feeling? Rough, I said honestly. The new medication protocol's kicking my ass. Oh, poor thing. Listen, I'm going to be near your pharmacy tomorrow. Do you need me to pick anything up for you? This was it. The moment where, in my first life, I'd said yes and handed over the refill information that would eventually kill me. Actually, I said slowly, my doctor just put new security on my prescriptions. I have to pick them up myself now and show ID. Something about insurance verification. Silence, then, oh, that's weird. Why would they do that? I don't know. She said something about discrepancies in the system. I paused. Apparently, there were some prescriptions filled that I don't remember picking up. It's probably just a computer glitch, but they have to investigate. More silence. Longer this time. When Jennifer spoke again, her voice was carefully controlled. That is weird. Where were they filled? I rattled off the addresses I'd memorized from my prescription history, all pharmacies Jennifer had used. Huh, she said. Those are all on the north side. Do you ever go up there? Never, I said. I told my doctor it must be identity theft or something. She reported it to the insurance company. The sharp breath Jennifer took was audible even over the phone. Well, she said, recovering quickly, I'm sure it's just a mistake. These systems are always screwing up. Don't worry about it, okay? Okay, I said meekly, thanks, Jen. Anytime, sis. That's what family's for. I hung up and allowed myself a small smile. Jennifer had no idea that I'd just lit the fuse, but she was about to find out. The insurance investigation moved faster than I expected. Within a week, I got a formal letter requesting an interview about irregular prescription activity on my account. I complied immediately, playing the shocked and cooperative victim. I provided my doctor's documentation. I showed them my calendar, proving I couldn't have been at half the pharmacies on the dates in question. I gave them permission to pull security footage. Do you know anyone who might have access to your insurance information? The investigator asked. I hesitated, playing the internal conflict perfectly. I mean, my sister has my insurance card for emergencies. She's picked up prescriptions for me before when I've been too sick. Your sister's name? Jennifer Morrison. Well, Jennifer Hartwell now. Morrison was her maiden name. The investigator wrote it down. And she's picked up prescriptions for you at which pharmacies? I gave them the list. Every single pharmacy where fraudulent fills had occurred. Has she ever picked up prescriptions without your knowledge or permission? Another hesitation. I don't think so. But I've been really sick, and my memory isn't great. I don't always remember everything clearly. I was giving them just enough plausible deniability for myself, a clear suspect for them. We'll need to speak with your sister, the investigator said. Of course, I said. Whatever you need, I just want this cleared up. I left that meeting and immediately texted Jennifer. Hey, weird question. Did the insurance company call you? They're asking about some prescription thing and mentioned they might contact family members. Her response came back in seconds. What? No. What prescription thing? Just that investigation I mentioned about the fills I didn't do. They're being really thorough. I gave them your name since you've helped me with pharmacy stuff before. Hope that's okay? Typing bubbles appeared and disappeared 3 times before she responded. Of course, that's fine. I'm happy to help clear this up. I could practically feel her panic through the screen. Jennifer's interview with the insurance investigator happened in 2 days later. I wasn't there, obviously, but I got the highlights from my follow-up call. She'd denied everything, of course, claimed she'd only picked up prescriptions when I'd explicitly asked her to, suggested that maybe pharmacy employees had made mistakes, or that there had been some kind of computer error, but then they showed her the security footage. Jennifer, clear as day, at 4 different pharmacies, presenting my insurance card, filling my prescriptions. Jennifer picking up controlled substances, pills that I needed to survive, and walking out with them. When confronted with the footage, she'd changed her story. Said I'd asked her to pick those up. Said I'd been too sick to go myself. Said she was just helping her disabled sister. So they asked her to provide the medications she'd picked up. She couldn't. Because she'd taken them, used them. They were long gone. Your sister has been filling your prescriptions and not delivering them to you, the investigator told me in a voice that was professionally neutral but personally outraged. This constitutes insurance fraud and theft of controlled substances. We're referring this case to law enforcement. Law enforcement? I made my voice shake. You mean the police? Yes, this is a serious crime. Your sister could face felony charges. But I swallowed hard. What about our insurance? I need my medications. I can't afford them without coverage. The investigator's voice softened slightly, and I understand this is difficult. However, due to the nature and extent of the fraud, we have to cancel this policy effective immediately. You'll receive formal notification within 24 hours. Both of us? Me too? The policy was used to commit fraud. We have no choice but to terminate coverage for all individuals on the policy. But I didn't do anything, I protested, letting real tears come now, tears of rage and satisfaction that I disguised as fear. This is going to ruin me. I can't afford my medications without insurance. I choked on the words, I'm going to die. I'm very sorry, the investigator said, and she actually sounded like she meant it. If it helps, you'll have documentation that your coverage was terminated due to fraud committed by another party. That might help you get new coverage, without a gap. But I can't make any promises. She didn't know I'd already lined up new insurance. Expensive, inadequate insurance that would barely cover my medications and would drain my savings, but insurance nonetheless. Jennifer, on the other hand, had nothing lined up. Because Jennifer had no idea this was coming. The formal cancellation letter arrived the next day. I stared at it, letting the reality sink in, even though I'd known this was coming. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I'd sacrificed my own insurance coverage to destroy hers. And the beautiful thing was, she still didn't know I knew. She didn't know I remembered dying because of her. She didn't know this was revenge. She thought this was just an investigation that had spiraled out of control. Bad luck, bad timing. She had no idea I'd orchestrated every second of it. I gave it 3 hours before I called her, wanting to time it perfectly. Long enough for her to have gotten her own cancellation letter, not so long that she'd have time to fully process it. She answered on the first ring. Jessica, her voice was tight, strained. Did you get a letter from the insurance company? Yes, I had, injecting my voice with confusion and fear. They're canceling our coverage? Both of us? Jennifer, what the hell happened at that interview? What did you tell them? I told them the truth, that I only picked up prescriptions when you asked me to. But I didn't ask you to pick up half of those. I don't even know what pharmacies those were. You were sick. You don't remember half of what you asked me to do. So this is my fault? I let my voice rise. I'm losing my insurance because you can't keep track of which prescriptions you picked up for me? That's not... She stopped, took a breath. When she spoke again, her voice was different, pleading. Jessica, listen, we can fix this. We can tell them there was a misunderstanding, that I got confused about which ones you asked for. They'll reinstate the coverage. They said they're referring it to the police, Jennifer, for fraud. Silence. The police? Her voice was very small. They said you stole controlled substances, that it's a felony? I paused. Did you? Did you take my medications? No, I mean, she was scrambling now. Sometimes I might have, borrowed a pill or two when I was stressed, but I was going to replace them. You stole my medication. I said it flatly, letting the accusation hang between us. I've been suffering, thinking I was losing my mind, thinking I was taking more than I remembered, and you were stealing from me. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Jennifer? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've been committing insurance fraud with my information, stealing my medications, and now we've both lost coverage because of what you did. We'll get new insurance. How? I shouted. How am I supposed to get new insurance? I'm a high-risk patient with pre-existing conditions and now a policy that was canceled for fraud. Do you have any idea how expensive my medications are without coverage? I'll pay for them. With what money? Derek's? Does Derek even know about this yet? Her silence told me everything. Oh my God, I breathed. You haven't told him. I'm going to, she said quickly. I just need to figure out how to explain. Explain that you've been stealing your sick sister's medication for months? Explain that you committed insurance fraud? Explain that your kids are about to lose their health coverage because of what you did? I heard her breath catch. She hadn't thought about the kids yet. The kids, she whispered. Marcus needs his asthma medication, doesn't he? I said softly, twisting the knife. And Sophia's insulin is expensive, really expensive. How much does it cost without insurance, Jennifer? Do you even know? Derek's insurance? Well, Derek's insurance covered you as his spouse. You're on his policy. If that policy gets flagged for fraud because you were using my insurance to commit crimes, I let the implication dangle. She started crying. This wasn't supposed to happen. I just needed a little help sometimes, and you had all these pills, and you thought I wouldn't notice. You thought I was too sick and stupid to realize you were stealing from me. No, Jessica, please. I have to go, I said. I need to figure out how to afford my medications now that you've destroyed my coverage. Jessica, wait. I hung up. The next few weeks were glorious chaos. The police investigation moved forward. Jennifer was formally charged with insurance fraud and theft of controlled substances, multiple felonies. Derek found out not from Jennifer, but from a detective who showed up at their house with questions. I heard about the fight through my mother, who'd heard about it from Jennifer's neighbor. Apparently, Derek had lost his mind, screamed at Jennifer for hours about risking their kids' welfare, about lying to him, about stealing from her own sister. The divorce papers were filed within a week. Jennifer, panicked and desperate, tried to get new insurance immediately. But with pending fraud charges and a canceled policy, no insurance company would touch her. She applied for state assistance and was put on a waiting list. She tried to get on Derek's insurance through the divorce proceedings, but he refused, and the court didn't force it given the circumstances. Marcus ran out of his asthma medication first. Jennifer had to pay $400 out of pocket for his inhaler, money she didn't have, money she had to borrow from our mother. Then Sophia's insulin pump needed supplies, $800. Our mother couldn't cover that one. Jennifer had to sell her car. My mother called me crying, begging me to help Jennifer, to tell the insurance company it was all a misunderstanding, to drop the charges. I can't, I told her honestly, the boss. The insurance company made their decision based on evidence. The police are prosecuting based on crimes she actually committed. I don't have the power to stop any of this. But she's your sister, my mother sobbed. Family forgives. Family helps each other. She stole medication I needed to survive, I said quietly. She let me suffer. She let me think I was going crazy. She destroyed my insurance coverage, and she's only sorry because she got caught. She made a mistake. She made a choice, repeatedly, for months. I took a breath. I love you, Mom, but I'm not setting myself on fire to keep Jennifer warm, not anymore. My mother didn't speak to me for 2 weeks after that. I didn't care. My new insurance kicked in. It was expensive, $800 a month for premiums alone, plus copays that made my eyes water, but it covered my essential medications. Barely. I had to fight for authorizations, jump through hoops, switch to generic versions of drugs I'd been taking for years, but I was alive, more than alive. I was thriving. See, in my first life, I'd spent all my energy managing my illness while Jennifer drained my resources. I'd been constantly stressed, constantly struggling, constantly behind. In this life, I'd prepared. I'd saved money. I'd found better freelance clients. I'd built a support system that didn't include my toxic sister, and most importantly, I'd removed the parasite that had been slowly killing me. Without Jennifer in my life, I flourished. I started a chronic illness blog that went viral. Turns out, lots of people had experienced medical abuse from family members, and my honest writing about betrayal and recovery resonated. The blog led to freelance writing opportunities, which led to a book deal. I was making more money than I ever had. My health stabilized, my stress levels dropped. Meanwhile, Jennifer's life imploded. The fraud charges led to a plea deal, probation, community service, and restitution. She had to pay back the insurance company for all the fraudulently filled prescriptions, thousands of dollars she didn't have. Derek's divorce included zero alimony, citing her fraud as grounds for a fault-based divorce. She got minimal child support, barely enough to cover basics, let alone the kids' medical needs. She had to move in with our mother, cramming herself and 2 kids into a 2-bedroom apartment. She couldn't find work, felony conviction for fraud, didn't look great on applications. She'd gone from luxury suburban life to barely scraping by. And the kids, God, the kids broke my heart. I loved Marcus and Sophia. None of this was their fault. So I helped them. Not through Jennifer, never through Jennifer, but directly. I sent checks to my mother specifically for the kids' medical supplies, with explicit instructions that Jennifer wasn't to touch the money. I bought Marcus a nebulizer for the apartment. I researched patient assistance programs for Sophia's insulin and helped my mother fill out the applications. I helped the kids, I let Jennifer drown. 6 months after the insurance cancellation, Jennifer showed up at my apartment. I'd been expecting this. She'd tried calling, texting, emailing. I'd blocked her on everything. She'd sent messages through our mother. I'd ignored them. She'd even tried to show up at my workplace. Security had escorted her out, but I'd known she'd eventually come here. I opened the door and looked at her. Really looked at her. She'd aged years and 6 months. Her hair was lank and unstyled. She wore Target clothes instead of Nordstrom. Her manicure was gone, her nails ragged. She looked tired, defeated. Good. "Jessica," she said, "please, I need to talk to you." "No," I said and started to close the door. She stuck her foot in the jamb. "Please, 5 minutes, that's all I'm asking." I stared at her foot, then at her face. "You have 3 minutes." She sagged with relief and followed me inside. I didn't offer her a seat, stood with my arms crossed, waiting. "I'm sorry," she said. "I know I fucked up. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed everything. But Jessica, I'm begging you. The kids need help. Marcus had an asthma attack last week and we couldn't afford the emergency room bill. Sophia's rationing her insulin. They're suffering because of what I did and I can't—" Her voice broke. "I can't fix this by myself." "You should have thought about that before you stole from me," I said calmly. I know I should have, but I didn't think— I never thought it would go this far. You never thought you'd get caught," I finished. "You never thought there would be consequences. You never thought I'd matter enough for anyone to care." She flinched. "That's not— isn't it?" I took a step toward her. "You stole my medication, Jennifer. Medication I needed to survive. You let me suffer. You let me think I was losing my mind, and you did it because you could. Because I trusted. You, because you thought I was too sick and too weak to ever fight back." "I was wrong," she whispered. "I was so wrong. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Are you sorry you did it? Or sorry you got caught?" She opened her mouth, closed it, couldn't answer. I smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "Here's what's going to happen," I said. "You're going to leave. You're never going to contact me again." You're going to figure out how to take care of your kids without stealing from people who love you. And you're going to live with the consequences of your choices. But the kids, I help the kids directly, through mom. You don't get to use them as leverage. I walked to the door and opened it. Your 3 minutes are up. Jessica, please. I died because of you. The words came out before I could stop them. Jennifer stared at me confused. What? I could have backtracked, should have backtracked, but I was so tired of pretending. In another life, I said softly, you stole my immunosuppressant. I asked you to pick it up, and you kept it. I went into organ failure. I died alone on my bathroom floor while you posted Instagram stories from a wellness retreat? You're not making sense. I know exactly what you're capable of, Jennifer. I know exactly how little you care about anyone but yourself. I know that you'll sacrifice anyone, including your own sister, for your own convenience. I looked her dead in the eye. So no, I don't forgive you. I don't believe your apology, and I will never, ever trust you again. You're talking crazy. Get out. Jessica, get out. She ran. I closed the door behind her, locked it, and slid down to sit with my back against it. I was shaking. From adrenaline, from rage, from the sheer catharsis of finally telling her the truth, even if she didn't believe it. I'd done it. I'd actually done it. I'd gotten revenge on the sister who'd killed me, and it felt fucking glorious. A year after my rebirth, I was doing better than I'd ever done in my first life. My book, a memoir about family betrayal and chronic illness, hit the bestseller list. The advance was enough to cover a year of medical expenses. The publicity led to speaking engagements, podcast interviews, a whole new career I'd never imagined. Readers reached out from all over the world, sharing their own stories of medical abuse, of family members who'd stolen medications, of the unique hell of being sick and betrayed simultaneously. I wasn't alone. I'd never been alone. Jennifer, meanwhile, was working 2 jobs to make ends meet and still couldn't afford adequate medical care for her kids. Our mother had to pick up most of the slack, draining her retirement savings. I felt bad for our mother. I felt bad for the kids. I felt nothing for Jennifer. Some people thought I was cruel. My mother certainly did. She'd stopped speaking to me entirely after I refused to help Jennifer get her record expunged or write a letter to the court asking for leniency. She's your sister, Mom had said one last time. She was my killer, I'd replied. We hadn't spoken since. But I had new family now, chosen family, the chronic illness community that embraced me, the readers who understood, the friends I'd made who would never steal from me, never betray me, never leave me to die alone. I was happy. For the first time in both my lives, I was genuinely, truly happy. The pharmacy where it all went down, the one where Jennifer had most frequently filled my prescriptions fraudulently, called me 18 months after the insurance cancellation. Ms. Martinez, this is Sarah from MediQuick Pharmacy. I'm the manager here, and I wanted to reach out personally to apologize. I frowned. Apologize for what? For what happened with your sister. We've implemented new protocols since then. ID verification for all controlled substances, photo verification for pickups, automated flags for unusual patterns. What happened? To you should never have happened, and I wanted you to know we've made changes to ensure it doesn't happen again. Oh, I said. Thank you. That's good. I also wanted to let you know that we've reported ourselves to the State Pharmacy Board for our role in allowing the fraud to continue. We accept full responsibility for not catching it sooner. I sat down. You reported yourselves? It was the right thing to do. We failed you as a patient. We failed in our duty to protect vulnerable individuals from prescription fraud. She paused. I hope you found a pharmacy you can trust. I have, I said. But thank you for calling, for caring. Of course. You take care, Ms. Martinez. I hung up and stared at my phone. Even the pharmacy had taken more accountability than Jennifer ever had. 2 years after my rebirth, I saw Jennifer at a coffee shop. I almost didn't recognize her. She looked older, harder. She was wearing a fast food uniform, grabbing coffee between shifts. She didn't see me. I was in a corner booth working on my laptop, and I didn't announce myself. I watched her order the cheapest coffee on the menu, watched her count out change from her pocket, watched her slump at a table and stare blankly at her phone. I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no guilt, no vindication. Just nothing. She'd killed me once. I'd killed her life in return. We were even. I packed up my laptop and left without saying anything. I had a podcast interview in an hour, and I needed to prepare. My agent had just sold translation rights to my book in 6 countries. I had a date tomorrow with someone I'd met at a chronic illness support group, someone who understood invisible disability, who would never steal my medication, who treated me with respect. My life was good. Jennifer's wasn't. And unlike in my first life, this time, that was exactly how it was supposed to be. 3 years after my rebirth, I got a message from my mother. Jennifer's in the hospital. Suicide attempt. She asked for you. I stared at the message for a long time. In my first life, I would have run to the hospital. I would have forgiven her, helped her, sacrificed myself to save her. In this life, I knew better. I hope she gets the help she needs, I typed back. But I'm not coming. She's your sister. She stopped being my sister when she stole medication from a dying woman. You're really going to let her suffer alone? I thought about that bathroom floor, the empty pill bottle, the way my fingers wouldn't quite work to dial 911, the cold tile against my cheek. Yes, I replied, I am. I blocked my mother's number and went back to work. 5 years after my rebirth, I was on a panel at a medical conference about patient advocacy and prescription fraud prevention. A woman in the audience raised her hand during Q&A. How did you forgive your sister? She asked. The room went quiet. Everyone knew my story by then. It was the foundation of my book, my advocacy work, my entire public persona. I smiled. I didn't, I said simply. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But don't you think forgiveness is important for healing? The woman pressed. I think healing happens when we stop letting toxic people drain our energy, I replied. Forgiveness is wonderful when it's genuine and when it's safe. But sometimes, the healthiest thing you can do is walk away and never look back. Even from family? Especially from family, I said. Because they're the ones who know exactly how to hurt you most. The moderator moved on to the next question, but I saw heads nodding throughout the audience. People understood. After the panel, dozens of people came up to thank me, to share their own stories of family betrayal, to say that I'd given them permission to protect themselves. I'd turned my death into something meaningful. And Jennifer had turned her life into a cautionary tale. 7 years after my rebirth, I got a letter. It was from Jennifer, forwarded through my publisher because she didn't have any other way to reach me. I almost threw it away without reading it. But curiosity won. The letter was short. Jessica, I know you'll probably never read this. I know I don't deserve for you to read this, but I need to say it anyway. I destroyed your life. I destroyed my own life. I destroyed my kids' lives, all because I was selfish and stupid and thought I could get away with it. I've spent the last 7 years in therapy trying to understand why I did what I did. The answer is simple and pathetic. I was jealous. Jealous that you got attention for being sick. Jealous that people cared about you. Jealous that you had something that made you special, even if that something was suffering. So I took your medication. First to see what it felt like. Then because I liked feeling like I had power over you. Then because I couldn't stop. I'm an addict, not to the pills. I never even liked how they made me feel. I'm addicted to control, to power, to being more important than everyone else, and I lost everything because of it. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know that ship sailed years ago. I'm not asking for help. I learned that lesson too. I'm just saying I'm sorry. For what I did, for who I was, for the sister I should have been and never was. The kids are doing okay, in case you wonder. They're older now, more independent. They get health coverage through the state. They're in therapy too, dealing with all of this. They don't talk to me much, but they're okay. I hope you're okay too. I hope you're happy. I hope you got everything you deserved from life, even if what I deserved was losing you, Jennifer. I read the letter 3 times, then I burned it. Not out of anger, not out of spite, but because I didn't need it. I didn't need her apology, her explanation, her justification. I'd made peace with what happened years ago. I'd turned my pain into purpose, my betrayal into a best-selling book, my death into a movement that had helped thousands of people protect themselves from prescription fraud. Jennifer's story ended in tragedy. Mine ended in triumph. And that, I thought as I watched the letter burn, was the best revenge of all. 10 years after my rebirth, I stood in front of a congressional committee. They were debating new legislation about prescription fraud prevention, and I was there to testify about the need for stronger protections for vulnerable patients. My sister used my prescription, I told them. She used my insurance, my identity, my trust, and when the fraud was discovered, we both lost coverage. I survived, barely, but there are people who don't. I talked about the gaps in the system, the pharmacies that didn't verify IDs, the insurance companies that punished victims along with perpetrators, the lack of safeguards for patients with chronic illnesses who depended on family members for help. We need federal standards for prescription verification, I argued. We need protections for patients whose coverage is terminated due to fraud they didn't commit. We need accountability for pharmacies that enable this abuse. The committee listened. They asked questions. They took notes. 6 months later, the Prescription Fraud Prevention Act passed with bipartisan support. It mandated ID verification for controlled substances. It protected innocent patients from losing coverage due to fraud committed by others. It created a national database to track prescription fraud patterns. It would save lives, all because Jennifer had tried to take mine. 15 years after my rebirth, I got an invitation to speak at a medical school. The topic, Ethics in Family Caregiving. I accepted. The auditorium was packed with first-year medical students, bright-eyed and idealistic. I told them my story, all of it, the chronic illness, the trust, the betrayal, the death, the rebirth, the revenge. Some of you are wondering if I went too far, I said, if I was cruel, if I should have forgiven her. Hands shot up. I called on a young man in the front row. Didn't you essentially ruin her life? He asked. I mean, you knew what would happen when you triggered the investigation. You knew she'd lose everything. Isn't that disproportionate? I smiled. She stole medication from a dying woman, I said calmly. She let me suffer. In my first life, she let me die. Tell me, doctor, when you take an oath to do no harm, does that extend to protecting people who do harm? He blinked. I don't know. The answer is no, I said. You protect patients. You advocate for the vulnerable. You stop abuse when you see it. You don't enable abusers, even when they're family. A young woman raised her hand, but what about compassion? What about second chances? Compassion doesn't mean letting someone hurt you repeatedly, I replied. Second chances don't mean anything if there's no accountability for the first chance. Jennifer had months to stop. She chose not to. She chose to keep stealing, to keep lying, to keep prioritizing herself over my survival. But her kids are innocent victims of her choices. I agreed, which is why I helped them directly. But Jennifer made her bed. She can lie in it. The room was silent. You're going to have patients who are abused by their caregivers, I continued. Family members who steal medication. Spouses who control access to care. Adult children who commit financial abuse. And you're going to have to decide, do you protect the patient or do you protect the family? I let that sink in. Always protect the patient, I said. Even when it's hard, even when it causes family drama, even when the abuser seems sorry. Because if you don't, the patient might end up like me, dead on a bathroom floor, killed by someone who claimed to love them. The applause started slowly, then built. By the time I finished, it was thunderous. After the talk, a dozen students came up to thank me, to share their own stories, to say I'd changed how they thought about family dynamics in healthcare. I'd turned my tragedy into education. And Jennifer? Jennifer wasn't even a footnote anymore. 20 years after my rebirth, I was invited to give a TED Talk. The title? The Sister Who Killed Me, A Story of Betrayal, Rebirth, and Revenge. I stood on that red circle and told my story to millions of people. I told them about trust and betrayal, about chronic illness and vulnerability, about the moment I died and the moment I decided to live. I told them about revenge, real, calculated, devastating revenge. And I told them why I didn't regret a single second of it. People will tell you that revenge is wrong, I said, that forgiveness is the only path to healing, that you should turn the other cheek, be the bigger person, let it go. I paused. But sometimes being the bigger person means protecting yourself. Sometimes forgiveness means letting someone keep hurting you. Sometimes the only way to heal is to cut out the infection, even when that infection is family. The audience was silent, hanging on every word. I don't believe in unconditional love, I continued. I believe love should have conditions. Don't hurt me, don't steal from me, don't let me die on a bathroom floor. Jennifer failed all those conditions. So, I stopped loving her. I stopped protecting her. I let her face the consequences of her choices. And you know what? I'm happier than I've ever been. I'm healthier. I'm more successful. I have people in my life who genuinely care about me, who would never steal from me, who see my illness as something to support, not exploit. Jennifer lost everything: her marriage, her home, her reputation, her relationship with her kids, her freedom. And I don't feel bad about it. The audience erupted. Half of them were cheering. Half looked uncomfortable, shifting in their seats. Good. I wanted them uncomfortable. I wanted them thinking about the toxic people in their own lives. The family members who demanded forgiveness without change. The friends who took advantage. The partners who exploited vulnerability. I wanted them to know it was okay to walk away. It was okay to choose themselves. It was okay to let someone suffer the consequences of hurting them. After the talk, the internet exploded. Think pieces were written. Twitter wars erupted. Some people called me inspirational. Others called me a monster. I didn't care. I'd told my truth. I'd shared my story. And thousands of people reached out to say I'd helped them find the courage to cut off their own toxic family members. That was worth all the criticism in the world. 25 years after my rebirth, Jennifer died. My mother called to tell me. We'd reconciled a few years earlier after she finally admitted that Jennifer had been abusive and that I'd had every right to protect myself. It was an overdose, Mom said quietly. Accidental, they think. She'd been in pain, back problems from working all those years, and she was taking medication for it. The same medication she used to steal from me? I asked. Yes. I felt nothing. No grief. No satisfaction. No vindication. Just nothing. Are you going to the funeral? Mom asked. No. Jessica, Mom, I mourned Jennifer 25 years ago. When she betrayed me. When she stole from me. When she killed me. I've already said goodbye. She was your sister. She stopped being my sister the moment she chose pills over my life. There was a long silence. The kids want to see you, Mom said finally. Marcus and Sophia, they're adults now and they want to thank you. That surprised me. Thank me for what? For helping them. For all those years you sent money for their medications. For helping them get into good colleges. For the trust fund you set up that they just found out about. I did that for them, not for Jennifer. They know. They want to tell you themselves. I hesitated. Okay, tell them to call me. Marcus and Sophia came to visit me a week after Jennifer's funeral. They were in their late 20s now, healthy and successful despite everything they'd been through. Sophia hugged me first. Aunt Jess, thank you for everything. Marcus nodded. We know what Mom did. We've known for years. And we know you had every right to never speak to any of us again. You didn't do anything wrong, I said. I never blamed you. We know, Sophia said. That's why we're grateful. You helped us when you didn't have to. You made sure we had what we needed, even though it meant staying connected to Mom's mess. We talked for hours about their lives, their careers, their own journeys of processing what Jennifer had done. Do you hate her? Marcus asked eventually. I thought about it. No, I said honestly, I stopped. Hating her a long time ago. Hate takes energy. She wasn't worth it. Did you ever forgive her? No, I said again. And I never will. But I also don't think about her anymore. She's just someone who used to be in my life. Sophia nodded slowly. We're still processing it all. The therapists say it's complicated. She was our mom, but she was also abusive and selfish and destroyed so many lives. It is complicated, I agreed. And it's okay for you to feel however you feel about her. Love her, hate her, feel nothing. It's all valid. Do you regret it? Marcus asked. The revenge? I smiled. Not for a second. 30 years after my rebirth, I published my final book. It was a comprehensive guide for chronic illness patients on protecting themselves from medical abuse, prescription fraud, and exploitation by caregivers. The dedication page read, "For everyone who trusted the wrong person, for everyone who suffered in silence, for everyone who thought they deserved the abuse. You don't. You never did. You deserve safety, dignity, and revenge." The book became required reading in medical schools across the country. The Prescription Fraud Prevention Act that had passed decades earlier was nicknamed Jessica's Law. I'd turned my death into a legacy. And Jennifer? Jennifer was a case study in cautionary tales. A warning about what happens when you betray trust, steal from the vulnerable, and prioritize yourself over everyone else. She was remembered, but only as the villain of my story. And I was fine with that. 35 years after my rebirth, I was invited to the White House. The president was signing an expansion of Jessica's Law, adding even more protections for vulnerable patients. I stood next to her as she signed it, cameras flashing. This woman, the president said, gesturing to me, turned personal tragedy into national change. She protected millions of people from the abuse she suffered. She is a hero. The room applauded, smiled for the cameras. But inside, I was thinking about that bathroom floor, the empty pill bottle, the sister who'd let me die. I'd won, not just against Jennifer, against death itself. I'd died once and come back stronger. I'd turned betrayal into triumph. I'd made my second life matter more than my first ever could have. And if I could go back and choose to forgive Jennifer, choose to prevent the revenge, choose to save her life instead of destroying it, I wouldn't. Not in a million years, because some people deserve forgiveness and some people deserve exactly what they get. Jennifer got what she deserved, and so did I.